Hi folks, thanks for coming to my classes, really appreciate it. So the feedback was to do these videos. I'll run through the basic checks and what to carry fairly quickly at the start of this video, and then further on, probably just before halfway through, I will run you through the tyre, the wheel, how to take the wheel off the bike, and the tyre and tube situation. So pre-bike checks, what are you checking mainly? Like I said before, it depends how long you've not ridden your bike for. So if it's been a couple of days, main thing is you're checking, is your chain still lubed? Was it wet last time you were out? If your chain's went dry, give it a little lube before you head out. If your tyre pressure, say it's roughly speaking about maybe 5 psi a week at most, probably less, maybe a couple of psi per week. The tyres will go down over time. So kind of space that out. If you've not checked your tyre pressure with a gauge for a couple of weeks, then you want to be checking it. The best thing to have at home is a proper track pump. It's quicker, it's a lot easier to do, and they generally have a gauge on them. Most track pumps you buy will have a twin head on it as well, so you can do Prester or Schrader type valves. So you're checking that, that's your main thing you're going to check before you head out. Remember, anything you've changed on the bike, what was the last thing you changed on it? Did you put a new chain on it? Have you put a pannier rack on it? Did you change your bottle cage? Those kind of things, just check that they're still fitted correctly. Check that your chain doesn't have any issues with it. In my second class that we've just done this evening, we showed a brand new chain that was only one ride old that had cracks in it. So just check, if it's a brand new chain you've just fitted, just run through it nice and slowly and check. You're looking for any fatigue parts, so you're looking for anything that's got any kind of cracking in the frame, in the links themselves. The drop test, so you can lift the bike up about 2 inches off of the ground and just kind of give it a little drop. Hold it, but give it a little drop. And anything that's majorly loose, anything that's going to rattle itself loose, especially if you've got pannier racks and mud guards and something's coming loose on it, quick way to find that loose thing is to just drop it slightly. There's nothing loose on this bike. You can hear the chain rattling there, but that's chain. There's nothing else rattling on this bike. If you had a loose bottle cage, where you had loose brake pads or a loose saddle or something, you'd hear that rattling. It'd just be wobbling on the threads. So the drop test is a good quick way to find things. If you haven't used your bike for 6 months, I would be looking a lot deeper. I would be checking every nut and bolt on the bike is still tight. We'll say checking every nut and bolt, it's taking your multi-tool, your 4, 5, 6 mil Allen key, and just running through the bike. You don't have to turn every nut and bolt. Just check that it's still tight, it's not moving anywhere. It's still tight, it's not moving anywhere. Just do that on every single nut and bolt on the bike. And it's amazing what you'll find just by going through the bike methodically. You might find a cracked piece of plastic, you might find there's a stone chip, or there's a damaged part of your frame you didn't see before because you didn't really inspect it that much. So just try and go through your bike with a fine tooth comb. That's within like a 6 month. If you've been off the bike for 6 months, that's the kind of thing you're checking. But on a day-to-day basis, it's your tyre pressure is your main thing. So tyre pressures, depending on what kind of bike you've got. If you're on a gravel bike, like the one we demonstrated this evening, about 45, 50 psi. It'll tell you on the sidewall of the tyre. They always have it stated somewhere on the circumference of the tyre. It's usually next to the size of the tyre as well. So whatever the size is on this one. So we've got the size on this one. It states that it's a 45 mil by 622 or 28 by 1.7. That's the same size. We're still talking about the same size of those two, just two different languages, two different ways of saying that. And then we've got our pressure. So maximum pressure for this is 4 bar or 55 psi. Again, 4 bar or psi, they're just two different ways of saying the same thing. 4 bar is the exact same. So we're just checking that our tyre pressures are still inflated. When I come to my bike personally every day, I'm just using the kind of joint of my thumb there, the kind of knuckle, and just giving it a wee squeeze. And I can kind of gauge, is it just a little bit soft because I've not pumped the tyres up for a few weeks, or have I got a thorn in it and it's lost 20, 30 psi overnight? It's hard to gauge that to start with, but the more times you use your track pump, knowing that it's at 60 psi, I would say, and then you're trying it with your thumb, you kind of get a feel with your thumb. and you kind of get a feel with the tyre pressure you have on that bike. Is the tyre still inflated correctly? Any doubt at all, get a track pump on it and check the tyre pressure before you head out. There's nothing worse than having underinflated tyres. You hit the first pothole, you hit the first rocky section mountain biking, and you get a pinch flat straight away, like a snake bite, and you burst 2 holes in your inner tube. You got to stop and fix it then. So that's pre-ride checks. The chain lube, like I said and described, when you run your finger down the chain, we're looking that we've got consistent, like the actual rollers in the centre have got oil. It's not just the links up the side, it's the rollers in the centre that have got oil on them. So we're just checking the chain's got enough oil on it. It's not going to be squeaking and scraping away. You're better to run on the kind of side of caution. To over oil a chain is worse than under oil on it. Too much oil on the chain attracts a lot of dirt to it, it attracts a lot of grime to the chain. You're then going to have to spend hours trying to pick all the dirt off of it, and it's going to affect the wear of the chain and the cogs. It's going to wear it a lot faster. So this particular chain I've just demonstrated there, that's quite a dry chain. You can maybe not hear it with the mic, but it's you can kind of hear the links rattling about in there. So that's a very dry chain. It's been sitting on the workbench. We have cleaned it down just for demonstration. But you just kind of want to, personally, with my commuting bike back and forth, I'll wait until it squeaks. As soon as I hear a wee squeak from it, as soon as I get to work or get home, I'll put some chain lube on it. It's ready for the next day. I don't ever just oil your chain every day you go out on it as part of your kind of get the bike ready procedure, because you're going to end up with it over oiled. You're going to end up with the oil building up and the mud building up and the crap on your chain, and it's going to add to the wear of your chain, and that's not what you want for it. I'm just going to check the camera's still rolling. So that's pre-ride kind of checks. You're just checking anything's loose. Did you have the wheel off in the car last time you brought it home? Check the wheel's still fitted correctly. You might have just shoved the wheel on quickly, and not to worry about it, but just check that you fitted the wheel correctly for it. Pre-ride checks. What are you carrying with you on the bike? So, like I said, don't carry stuff you're not going to use. If you don't know how to use it, there's not much point carrying it with you. The main point of that is carrying a much larger tool with a chain breaker on it. If you're not confident with how a chain breaker works or what to do with a chain when it breaks, you're just carrying extra weight on the bike. If you're not too fussed about weight, you've got an e-bike, don't worry about that. But if you're worried about weight, then and you're kind of more basic, just a standard Allen key. So this has got a 6mm, 3, 4, 5mm Allen key on it, and it's got a star head on it there for some reason, just in case you're adjusting your gears on your bike. Standard Allen key set there, just if anything comes loose on the bike when you're riding it, you've got a little Allen key set there to kind of keep you going. Tube, you want to carry the correct tube for your bike. Make sure you've got the right valve for it. If it's a Schrader valve, like a car valve you've got on your tyres, on your rim, then make sure you've got the right Schrader valve for it. The correct size tyre, so like I described before, every manufacturer, well, this box got covered all over, but there's 3 different ways of talking about the same wheel size. All the 3 different ways of this one here tell me that it is a 700 by 32 to 45. So 700 being the circumference, and then it'll state the size that it can do. So 32mm on the smallest size of tube, up to 45mm on the largest size of tube. So the tube can expand, so it does expand and fill the shape. If I used this, so this rated up to 45mm tyre, if I use this tube on a 55mm tyre, so a much larger size than it states in the box, it'll fit and it'll work, but the problem is you're stretching it really thin and you're asking the tube to do a lot. And when you stretch the tube nice and when you stretch the tube a lot, it'll go thin, it's much easier to get a puncture, and the chances of it bursting on a seam increase as well. So make sure you've got the right size tube carrying with you, and make sure you've got the valve cap on it when you've got it stored in your saddlebag or in your rucksack. Make sure the valve cap's on it, because the threads of the valve are quite sharp and they can damage the tube over time. You know, if it's been sitting in there for a couple of months, you'll damage it over time. Good pump and CO2. I would never carry CO2 just on its own. You're asking for bother. If you happen to get this wrong, or there's another hole in your tube that you didn't see it, you use your one CO2 can, there's no way of getting you home. I would always carry a pump is the main thing. Good pump, above the £20 mark, it's going to be reliable, should last you a lifetime. Tyre levers, depending on the kind of bike you've got, the Pedros ones that we sell are just your kind of standard tyre levers that cover 99% of most bikes. If you're mountain biking, then the Rotor ones that we've got in stock as well, just they're a bit thicker on the tips, a bit stronger. If you've got big mountain bike tyres, these ones can be helpful. If you are a triathlete and you've got some skinny tyres, so 25mm or 20mm tyres, 18mm is your smallest you'll get, you want to have some thinner tyre levers. So these are a lot thinner on the edge, so you can get it up underneath the tyre. So when you're trying to put it up the side of the rim there and get the tyre back on, or take the tyre off, you can get it in. It's a much smaller space that takes up on the rim itself. Phone would be your main thing to carry. Make sure your phone's charged. Make sure you let your spouse or whoever it is you're closest with know where you're going. You're going up the back of this forest, you're going up towards Ettrick, you're going out towards Dunsker, Kirkcudbright. Let them know what road you're on, just in case something happens and you need to phone them and explain where you are. They've already got an idea of what roads you'll be on, and where you'll be at certain times, and how long should they wait in the evening before they call for help or before the retracer steps. Just letting them know where you are. But carrying your phone with you, make sure the battery's charged, is key. Waterproof pouch for your phone. Even though your phone could be waterproof, I don't trust them myself. I'll still carry a waterproof pouch just in case. Where else are we? Patch kit. I would still carry a patch kit, even though if I'm doing a bigger ride, I'll have 2 tubes with me. I'll still be carrying a patch kit, because you never know. You go into the one part of the road that's got loads of thorns on it, you get one puncture and you think it's over, but you find another road, more thorns. Just carry a patch kit with you. Most patch kits come with plenty of patches to get you through. If you end up using a whole box of patches on the one ride, probably going to have more of a problem. So if you're using patches, I'll cover this later in the video, but just make sure you remove any thorns that have caused that puncture. So when you've got the tube out, just check for thorns. Run your hand out the back of it, so you're just checking this inside surface. You're checking there's no thorns sticking out there. Because if you get a repeated puncture, you fix the puncture, you ride another mile, you got a puncture again. There's a good chance you've got a thorn or a bit of glass in there. So just visually check the outside, and then check the inside as well for any holes. So that's why I would carry a patch kit, just in case that scenario happens. Extra layers, check the weather. We're in Scotland, take extra layers with you. Tinfoil blanket, can't stress enough how important they can be. Even if it is just fixing a puncture at the side of the road, your heart rate drops, it's a rainy, windy day, a tinfoil blanket just wrapped around about you, then put your jacket back on, it'll just keep you that bit warmer until you get back on the bike, until you get heart rate back up. Just keeps you in that kind of safe zone. You're not going to get hypothermic or start shivering. Same with you, if you happen to have an accident on the bike, you come off and you graze yourself and you go into a little bit of a shock, your sugar and your body starts getting a bit funny. Tinfoil blanket around about you, just keep yourself warm. If you have to phone for help, help isn't just 5 minutes away. You're going to be standing there outside of the road for 40 minutes, an hour, waiting for somebody to come in a car and pick you up. So just have a blanket with you. They're waterproof and they keep you warm. They reflect your heat, keep it inside you. Right, the main part, the how to remove a back wheel, fix a puncture and put the back wheel back on. I will demonstrate with the bike we had today. So we've got Nuke Proof here. I'm going to move a table. You're going to be able to see. So I'll pause the video, I'll set this up higher so you can see exactly how I can do this on the back wheel. Easily, just like that.